Matt.
Oh, yeah. Got the drums. One day we're gonna do a rap to this. Hey, you. How are you? Who are you? Why are you? Yes, you are. Hello. Welcome to Collaboraction Radio here on WCPT 820 AM, Chicago's progressive talk radio. And that's WCPT.com. And we're streaming live also on WCPT.com's SoundCloud. And in the very near future, you'll be able to listen to this episode, number 70 of Collaboration Radio, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere else you get your digital content. I'm Anthony Mosley. I'm the artistic director of Collaboration, and we are a 28-and-a-half-year-old. Actually, we're more than half. I think our birthday is in February. Almost 29-year-old nonprofit multimedia company whose mission is to build knowledge, empathy, dialogue, and action. We call that KEDA, around dismantling oppression and inequity through theater, film, radio, and more, to leverage the power of storytelling and community to cultivate positive social change. And that's what we're going to be doing here with you and our esteemed guest for the next 54 minutes or so. Collaboration Radio, we are sponsored by the Joseph and Bessie Feinberg Foundation. And today's episode is sponsored by AV Chicago, Chicago's leading provider of AV production and event management services. If you have the special event, they have the gear and the geeks to make it great. I made that up. What do you think? And the Ruth Page Center for the Arts. Start 2025 off on the right foot, or the left foot, or no foot, with Ruth Page School of Dance. During the entire month of January, the Ruth Page School of Dance at Ruth Page Center for the Arts, 1016 North Dearborn, is offering free trial classes for new students in their adult, youth, and pre-dance programs. All ages from 2 to 82 are welcome. And if you're older than 82, go there and tell them that Anthony Mosley sent you, and you can get a free trial dance class. Participating dancers will automatically be entered into a prize drawing at the end of the month. More information on classes is available at ruthpage.org. And if you listen to the show and you want to get more involved, you can always email radio@collaboration.org. You can send us a PSA, or you could become a sponsor too. This show is made by the Collaboration community of all shapes, sizes, forms, colors, smells, and we welcome you to our campfire. A couple quick updates. I did share last week that we got our permit for our new House of Belonging and in the Kimball Art Center, and we are planning a breaking of the ground. And I remember when Chicago Children's Theater Company had a groundbreaking, and I was there. I was taking notes, and I'll be taking notes today with our very esteemed guest who is in the studio. She's patiently waiting. I'm making it awkward by talking about it, but wait till you hear who's here today. Also, we are putting together a really great Black History Month program for the show, and we're going to be announcing something next week that's going to happen. That's going to be Black History related, and it'll be slamming. That's my hint. If you're listening live. Hi, I'm so glad you're listening and you're alive. And you can call in today if you want at 773-763-WCPT. I know a lot of you know that because you call into Edwin's show so often. Well, we had a great call last week. We talked about the LA fires and climate change. And we had 4 guests, 2 of them from LA. And we had a great caller. Really brings some insightful thought to our conversation. So if you want to join our conversation, don't be shy. 773-763-9278. Join us on the airwaves. And then you'll be on YouTube and Facebook and Spotify in the very near future. Okay, on the 70th episode of Collaboraction Radio, we're talking with Jacqueline Russell, the co-founder and artistic director of Chicago Children's Theater. Previously, she served as the executive director of Looking Glass Theater Company, during which time she led the company's build and move into Looking Glass's current performance space in the Water Tower Waterworks. Before joining Looking Glass, she was the director of children's programs at Old Town School of Folk Music. Russell is the creator of the Red Kite Project, a program CCT launched in 2007 dedicated to bringing theater into the lives of children with special needs. As artistic director of CCT, she has produced 23 world premieres, won 8 NEA awards for new work, and is one of the 20 women who have shaped arts and culture in Chicago on the Carrie James Marshall mural Rushmore at the Chicago Cultural Center. In 2018, she wrote and directed the critically acclaimed, innovative, immersive production X Marks the Spot. To celebrate inclusion in the arts, Russell has co-written for the lyric opera Popcorn and Pasquale, The Family Barber and the Magic Victrola. She regularly co-directs Once Upon a Symphony for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. She is really a Hall of Fame member of the Chicago theater community, I think, says New City probably.
Am I still?
Yeah, right. No, I think once you're in the Hall of Fame, it's emeritus, and somebody that I really admire, and she's both super smart and soulful. Welcome to Collaboration Radio. Can I call you Jacqui on the air? Is that okay?
Yes, you may.
Hi.
Hi.
Look we made it. We're here.
Yay.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. 70th episode feels very like a special number. I love it.
Yeah, and we're here in January 18th, the day before TikTok gets banned, 2 days before the inauguration. It's a whole new world, and we're still doing it here in Chicago theater. So, I resonate so much with a lot of the key elements of your work. And when I was picking a shirt out for the show today, I decided to go with my zebra shirt because it's I'm really just a big hairy 12-year-old, and you get the joy of working with children. And let's go back to start with your childhood. If your origin and we do have your family tree story that you shared with us during the pandemic.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
I did post it today on Facebook. I don't know if you saw that.
God, no.
I know, I forgot too. And I was like, wait a second. So there's a companion piece. If you want to learn about Jacqui's family on her mother and her father's side and what happened to bring her, each of us have 40,000 ancestors rooting us on from the other side of the veil. And very shortly, we will be there too. Hopefully we'll get a bunch of high fives and hugs, and then we'll be watching others, maybe. I don't know. But while we're here alive, let's cherish it. So, as a Hall of Fame member of the Chicago theater community, why is she a Hall of Famer? She's made a huge impact on the landscape of Chicago theater, not just by founding Chicago Children's Theater, building an amazing space in the near West Loop, but also you've worked with thousands of amazing Chicago artists, and you're a creative, impactful, strong leader. When in your childhood, what's the origin story of the superhero that is Jacqui Russell? When did these things happen? When did you start to know that maybe you loved theater and that you were really good at telling other people's stories and pointing up a mountain and saying, "Let's go make some art"?
Uh, Thank you. That's a good question. I have to say that I feel like a lot of the origin of I would say one of my superpowers, one of my greatest superpowers is connecting people and reaching out to people and engaging and exciting people with ideas. And I was the youngest child. I was the unexpected child. My siblings are 11 and 8 years older than me. So everyone wanted me to play by myself all the time and leave them alone because they were mean teenagers by the time I was moving around. And so I was basically always instructed to just go out and make friends and play. And I was encouraged to knock on strangers' doors and say, "Can you come out and play with me?" So my earliest memory, my earliest memory, really, one of them as a child, we lived in Beirut, Lebanon, and my father worked for Saudi Arabian oil, and we lived in a high rise. And I just remember my mother opening the door, and I just went and knocked on a neighbor's door and just said, "Do you have any kids living here? Do they want to play?" I was probably 3.5. And they had candy too, which was, also a bonus. But I just, I made friends everywhere I went because I had to. I wanted to get away from my, my siblings who were just, teenage girls, and yeah, I started, and also I went to school at the French Embassy at the time, and their preschool programming was very much about music and movement, and very different to me from American schooling when I came back to America.
And how old were you when you came back?
I was about 4. So I spent my formative...
You remember all this?
I remember everything,
What's
yeah.
your first memory?
My first memory is... we had this woman that was taking care of us, and my parents were out, and her name was Josephine, and she told me she had to go downstairs to get bread from the bread man and to stand by the door and count to 10. And I remember I was anxious if I knew my numbers well enough, and would she really come back.
And how old were you?
I think I was like 2.5. I really remember standing by the door and counting to 10, and she came back with the bread.
I don't know if it's my first memory or I've just told myself it was my first memory, but my first memory is I was at a pool in our apartment complex in either Peoria or Taylorville, and I dropped my toy and it went to the bottom of the pool, and I think I was like 18 months, 20 months old, and my Uncle Guy dove in and swam to the bottom of the pool and got my toy. And
happy ending.
Yeah.
Oh.
And okay, and then what happened?
So I knew, at least then at an early age, that I loved music, I loved dancing, and then we moved back to the States, and I'm left-handed, and a lot of what we were doing in preschool was like arts and crafts, which were really challenging for me because I needed left-handed scissors. I mean, it was just like, it was a very hard time for me. And so I really got interested. I started to love musicals. And, I think I watched Sound of Music and Wizard of Oz, all of those things like a million times over and over, and really started to sort of feel like those were more my people than the people around me in my little Meriwether preschool in Houston, Texas, where I just felt very alone. And so I think I started really developing a very strong sense of imagination. And then I became like the favored babysitter in the neighborhood, and I would bring kids around. I taught all the kids how to roller skate. I taught kids how to read. I put on shows. I used to play Neil Diamond music and get everybody to dance. I mean, I just was the fun babysitter. I loved kids. And yeah, I
I mean, that
just,
sounds like your job today.
it's
I
kind of
mean,
what I know. I invented my job at a very early age. It really
yeah.
does feel, I really could just put on Cherry Cherry and just, we could just have a party. And I'd be like, that's my job. And it's so much, the work I do with children with autism is so much about that. Because I don't know, I just really learned to play and to make play my life. And as you know, running a theater company is a lot more than play. I feel like I do a lot of other things besides play, but when I do get back to the origins of that, I realize why I love doing this and why I do it.
Yeah, I miss the rehearsal room right now. It's been a little while, and there are those times when you're in the middle of a big project and there's lots of stress and deadlines, and you just have to say it's time to play. Playing and praying is almost the same word in every language, and those are the two most brain regenerative activities that you can do. And us theater artists, we pray through playing, and the theater is our space of worship.
Yes, and I believe that the work that we do can be very healing.
Yeah. And so, I feel like autism awareness and understanding has come a long way in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
You were really making space for young people and their families starting when, 2007?
Well, 2007 is when I launched that program. I actually started working with children on the spectrum in like about 1999 when I was at Looking Glass Theater. I originally was their director of education, and I was running a program in partnership with CAPE, the Chicago Arts Partnerships in Education, a phenomenal organization. And I was coordinating drama theater programs in a number of public schools. And I was looking for someone to teach the autism class at what was then called Agassiz Elementary School on the north side. And I couldn't find anybody who was available to take that class. And so the teacher there begged me to not leave them without a teaching artist for the year. So I volunteered myself. I had no idea what I was doing. I was quite, I was nervous, but I was really committed to just making a go of it. I had taught Wiggle Worms for many years at Old
Really?
Town School of Folk Music. I started all their theater programs, and I
playing the
ran
guitar?
I played ukulele.
Nice.
Very
I didn't know
basic,
that.
very basic.
Wiggle Worms is
Yes, it's legend,
it's
right?
a rite of passage for a lot of little ones.
Yes, it is. It really is. And I was there, before I had my own child, and it was again a great. I got to sit on the floor and play with kids and just make up games and songs, and it was just it's a wonderful place. And so I sort of took some of that I knew how to do, and I also took training that I had gotten from Looking Glass. And David Kersner was really my mentor, one of the founders of Looking Glass Theater. And I just started realizing that the most important thing I could do in that classroom was just to be present to all of those children and all of their very different ways of being and their personalities. And the first class was a total disaster. And the teacher was like, "This is great. We'll see you next week." And I stayed for 13 years.
Wow.
I was in that classroom like almost once a week.
So what is the greatest gift or thing that you've learned from those young people?
Well, I mean, they just taught me so much about being present and joy and just actually, like, people used to say to me like, "Oh, isn't that kind of sad? Doesn't it depress you?" And I was like, "No, actually, you depress me and make me sad." I was like, these kids make me happy. Like they see the world very differently. They have their own vision, which actually isn't so constrained by what other people think. And they actually, like, I learned so much, and I realized, like, wow, just shut up and learn, right? And I'm here to work on your communication skills as a person who maybe is having difficulty communicating, expressing, identifying emotions in other people, but I'm also learning something from you, which is about really what's important in life. And yeah, it was, it changed my life. And I'm just really grateful. And those kids that I started with, they're grown, they drink beer, they love heavy metal rock, they're in their 30s, we're friends on Facebook, a lot of them. Like, they're just still just the coolest people. And yeah, but what you were saying before, perception and understanding has changed a lot since then. And but there were things that we were realizing. I was partnering with incredible special ed teachers who are some of the greatest people I've ever had the privilege of working with. And um, together, those people were really, I think, leading the way, and I think groundbreaking in terms of, these children have a lot of possibilities. They have a lot of possibilities. There's so much. We have to work at it with them, and we have to work on meeting them where they are. And we were already doing that with these young kids, and you can see it in their social skills today as grown adults.
And what are the keys to like creating a good theatrical experience or environment for them?
Well, first of all, you have to make them feel welcome. And a welcoming environment is a judgment-free zone. And so you have to really work at saying, this is a place for you. However you want to be in this place is fine, as long as you're safe and everybody else is safe around you. If you need to watch this entire performance standing in the doorway, you can do that. If you want to lie down, these performances that we'll create specifically that are sensory friendly, sometimes a child will just lie on the stage and just start singing along with us. They make up their own verses to the songs. They're amazing. And if that's the way they want to experience the show, that's totally fine. And, our job as the performers is to bring you along with us and to really engage in an interactive experience. And interactivity is just huge, I think. People oftentimes don't want to take kids with autism somewhere because they're like, it's going to be dark, they have to sit still, they have to be quiet. Not in a Red Kite production. They don't have to do any of those things.
We start our careers and we have some ideas and dreams. Usually they are fueled by our culture and media and what everybody thinks is successful. And then we fall into some niches, and those niches, these little things, right? And then we get our 10,000 hours in that thing, and we have a new skill set, toolbox, and sensitivity, and then we can take those things to other parts of our career and our work and our family, So I imagine that this work must also give you so much insight and expertise as you deal with all kinds of children. And, you've now become an expert at creating space for children to lose themselves in the power of theater. And what is your karmic feedback loop look like? What are the things that are most rewarding to you or that you're most proud of? And what's the next 10 years look like for you? What are the things that you still want to do while you have this amazing platform you've built?
Yeah. Wow, that's such a deep question, and it's a multifaceted
Two questions.
one. I'm like,
let's
what?
Split them up.
Okay. I would say, karmically, I am very connected to the spirit of my mother. She's no longer with us, but my mother was orphaned at a very young age and had a very, very pretty traumatic childhood. And she just was an incredibly shy person, a very reserved person. She loved that I was so theatrical and bold, and she loved that I had lots of friends, that I was, quote, popular, quote, not really, but to her I was very popular. But she loved that I was outgoing, all those things that she wasn't. And she was just so concerned about inclusion, even at a very, very early age. If I had a party, I had to invite every child to the party. We ended up having a little boy who lived next door to us who had cerebral palsy, and he was in a wheelchair. And at that time, those children were extreme shut-ins. You just didn't have access for wheelchairs anywhere. And he went to a special school that we didn't even really know about. It was all very secretive, his quiet, solitary life very much next door. And I was about 8 years old. I wanted to have a Halloween party. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to invite kids that, maybe we'd play spin the bottle. We'd do something really cool, and
What's spin the bottle?
I don't know anymore. It's an old fashioned thing that, back before your time. But my mom was like, well, you can have this party, but you have to invite Davy too, the boy next door. And I was like, oh, but he doesn't go to my school. And what will other kids think of me? Like, I was just, I was an obnoxious, normal 8-year-old, I guess. And my mom was like, no, he's coming to the party. And it was like probably the first party he'd ever been invited to. And he came to our party, and all the other kids got so fascinated with his wheelchair that they started making games with the wheelchair, and he kind of became the life of the party. And my mom, like, after the party, my mom was like, don't you see that, like, you have to invite other people to the party? Like, that's how it goes. Like, it's so good to bring in people who aren't like you. Like, it was just like the greatest lesson, like, she could have given me, honestly.
We learn so much from our traumas, and it must not be a coincidence that the daughter of an orphan grew up to create a space that would be a home for kids to play, and go to plays. So, and so did your mother have foster parents, or did she eventually get adopted? Or
she was never adopted. She did go to foster homes, and they would be very short term. Like, people would say, like, I guess let's just give these orphans like a week in the country or something. So people who had farms, and like, she had nice memories of people. There was like a minister who took her, and she told this story once about how their other kids were there, and they were all playing outside, and she was so happy to be just outside playing. And they called her in and said, you have to come in because something special is happening. And she ran into the house, and there was a big cake, and she was so excited, and she just couldn't wait to see whose birthday it was. And they were like, no, it's your birthday. And she said, I don't have one. She'd never had a birthday celebration. And they had to convince her that she actually had a birthday.
Wow.
And that they were celebrating it.
So your karmic return, perhaps, is the connection you have to your mother through your ongoing work.
Yes.
And so and question number 2, what are the things that you still want to work on? What's next? What's when we're not in a pile of admin and board meetings and grants and putting out fires, and what seeds are you trying to plant, or what is, I always say, like, you should make work about the things that you can rant about the longest, especially because I'm trying to make work about social change. So the things that really, is there anything that you really want to go at?
I mean, honestly, I feel like these stories that I've just shared with you that touched my life and gave me meaning are so much about empathy and about being surprised about other people's perspectives and haves and have-nots. And I just want to continue telling those stories, and for children to continue to learn, and I want to foster a place where they're continuing to really be open and aware, and I really want children to be actively engaged in the world around them. And I feel like storytelling is the best way to do that. I still feel like I have a lot of stories that I would like to tell. I like you hear, I'm very connected to my mother's story. I think so many people just, it feels nowadays that the past and history is even farther away than ever before. I was thinking about how we used to all watch some of the same TV shows. We don't watch any of this. Our kids, everybody's in their own little space. And I was just hearing a comedian today talking about how when people go to the grocery store now, they don't even talk to a grocery store person. They have a machine, they use self checkout. So no one's even saying to you, like, hey, I like your shirt with the zebras on it, cool shirt, we're like so in bubbles, and it's I find that like really scary and sad and not good, and children are absolutely in those little bubbles.
Well, and it was during the lockdown where it just became there was no more of those random chance encounters, and sometimes those things actually lead to new friends.
Yes.
It's so much harder once you're kind of over 30 to make new friends. Like I did a really special project in Maui, raising money for survivors of the Lahaina fires, and there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still 6,000 people that have been displaced. A lot of them are living in resorts without hotel rooms without kitchens, and this, as horrific as what happened in LA is, I have a feeling LA will be restored before Maui. It's going to take a long time, but I've made a bunch of new friends that are musicians and chefs, and they don't live in Chicago. And on one hand, right, we had the past where you could go knock on your neighbor's door and ask if Billy was home and go play until sundown. And we could, we were in this analog world where it was, today you look back and it feels like a golden time, but oppression, ignorance, the isms were also just full on. And now we have today where we're totally isolated. We may go hours without real human interaction, even when we're out and about, but we have so much more knowledge, and we have come a far way in regards to our understanding. What's next?
Well, I mean, yeah, we have so much access now to information, right? But we have little connection.
Yeah.
It just seems like the more information we're getting, the more disconnected we're becoming instead of connected. And I find that even for myself, like I'm really on somewhat of a media diet now since the election, because I just feel like I can't take it anymore. And all that information and all of that, it just it was kind of a lot of it for nothing. And so I'm trying to be more conscious of like what I'm feeding myself, right?
Yeah.
And to your point about those interactions and connections, I think, parents today, and even when I was raising my daughter, you had to be pretty conscious of making plans for them and setting up play dates. And, that is one thing about, what we're doing at Chicago Children's Theater, especially like we noticed right after the pandemic, like classes just immediately were filling. Like parents were like, my kid needs to, whether they're into theater or not, they're going to go play with some other kids. They're going to have make-believe time. They're going to talk to somebody. And, it was, I can only imagine how hard that was. Those children were scared, but they were also, some of them were just overwhelmed with emotion. They would cry when they would have to go home because they knew they were going to be alone again until that next, defined time of that class.
This is a great lead into just a short chat about the state of theater. We've been on a few panels together, and
yes,
and here we are, and the lockdown happened. Gathering in a shared space and sharing stories was taken away from us. A lot of artists, technicians, people across the service industry left the business. Many theaters shut down. Many folks stopped going to theater, especially, our elder audience. Some of them, in our family, we lost a lot of people. We lost 9 people.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then a lot of people just didn't feel safe going back and, unmasked, masked, all the air cleaning, So the way I see it, our audience used to be a third other artist, a third folks over the age of 65, 70, and then a third of kind of, diverse hardcore theater audience, skewing very white and privileged. The artists, half of them left. The elder, what they call the blue hairs, half of them stopped going to theater, and we had this huge shrinkage. And now we've seen music first, and now comedy doing really well. The audience wants a place to go to. It just seems they don't want to go to see, a new work play or what they perceive as a risky experience with a bunch of strangers in the middle of the 12th row. Now you have a unique Sandlot.
Yes. Yes.
But you have been around. You're the executive director of Looking Glass. What do you, what are you seeing as being most important to bring theater forward? And it's not going anywhere. But if there's some other artistic directors listening and they wanted to hear your insights on what we should be thinking about to really embrace and optimize our opportunities for the live experience, what would you say?
Yeah, I feel like what I have to say is, it's not what I want to say, but I think what is the smart thing that I feel right now is that there's a reason why people are gravitating to comedy and to music. People want to feel better. And, a lot of times theater is about provoking. It's about, thinking about hard stuff. It can be, incredibly cathartic and life-changing. But I think that right now people are really exhausted. And I think all of the loss that people experienced, the fear, the isolation, and now, to me, the whole political environment is just a whole other devastation that we're experiencing, frankly. And I think that people want to feel good and they want to feel better. And I mean, I personally, I see a lot more comedy now than I ever saw before. I mean, I'm even going tonight to the Den. Like I need to laugh, and I think the children's theater can kind of live in a space where, people, they want to make sure their kids are out and doing things. And, we haven't quite, I think, had some of the issues that maybe the grown-up theater space has had. But I think that we do have to consider where our audience is, just in terms of just the general psyche. And I think, people are still attracted to celebrity. They will still go if there's a big name, but I think that there's a reason why, during war times and, musicals took off. It's like people want to escape. And I think that theater can absolutely create that. And I can think of many beautiful Looking Glass productions that were exactly a beautiful escape. And, at the same time, there was always something there that was, something to take away. But a lot of it was just beauty. And I think we need beauty right now. We need beauty. We need laughter. It's
we
human.
need the good energy. We need the healing, fun, joy, love, aloha. Speaking of Looking Glass, they're coming back after a a hiatus
Yes.
under the leadership of Casey Foster.
Our friend Casey Foster.
She's amazing.
She's a genius. I love her.
I have to get her on this show.
Yes, she's next.
And we can make a bunch of fart jokes together.
Oh, it'll be endless. Yeah, it's a good
Circus Quixote, is that what they're doing?
Yeah, David Catlin with his wife Carrie Catlin.
Oh,
yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
they are.
They are amazing.
And what comedian are you seeing tonight at the Bank?
Alex Moffat.
Oh, cool.
Remember he was on SNL. He's a Chicagoan.
Awesome.
We saw him once before. Really funny guy. Very funny.
Well, you know, they say Chicago invented the no punchline jokes.
Oh, I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Now, I'm thinking of doing a one-man show. It's called Meta Dad Jokes, and they're all going to be very meta-theatrical.
Okay, example.
Jokes. Oh, I'm doing one. This is it. Right?
Okay, here we go.
I'm doing it. It's it. Because no punchline, and I'm a dad, and I can't not be. So, the Magic City, Manual Cinema, the Chicago-born multimedia, very much, I think, the kind of thing that people want to see.
Yes, beautiful.
And I don't know, do you know that? I think this is true. If it's not, well, this is the advantage of live radio. You could say anything you want. Isn't that right, Henry?
Yep.
Their first public show was part of Sketchbook something or other.
Wow.
Yeah,
How cool.
Drew Durr, the amazing, had some early Sketchbook plays with us. And then I think him and Julia and the team were like, hey, this is a good place to try out a short show. And it was incredible. And now they've just gone on to become, they're kind of like they're definitely rock stars of mixed media projectionist storytelling.
Yes, they are their own thing.
Yeah.
They are their own thing. And I was even just for fun reading their study guide that's on our website right now. So their production of the Magic City is coming up at Chicago Children's Theater. It's opening next weekend, and it's just their first really children's piece, so to speak. I mean, a lot of their stuff is so accessible that young children can enjoy things, but this piece was specifically created for children. We actually opened our space in the West Loop when we inaugurated the theater. This piece was the opening piece, and it's just a gorgeous story and a beautiful adaptation. But when you read their study guide about the show, it really talks about how they came about and how they started to understand that they were making theater and film at the same time. And I think it was Sarah, artistic director, said, this is watching a movie being made in front of you. But, when you go to see it, it's the same movie every night, but it's being made in front. It's so hard to explain how incredible that experience is. And to your point, there's so much joy and magic, and you feel like a little kid when you're watching it. And they let people come up on stage even after their shows for grown-ups. We just saw a Christmas Carol, and I was with our mutual friend Joe Shanahan and his wife, and like Joe couldn't wait to get up there and see everything up close. I mean, just the enthusiasm that the audience feels when the show ends, and wanting to understand how did they do that. That is reaching the child in all of us, and that's what we're about at Children's Theater, and they do it so beautifully.
And if you're in your 40s and your 50s and you don't have a kid, can you come to Chicago Children's Theater Company?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Like people always come to our shows and they're like, I brought my kid to see this, but actually I think it was for me. Like, I got so much out of that show. It's, that's so much about why we made this company, is that 20 years ago, Todd Leland, my co-founder, and I were talking about how there were so many incredible artists in Chicago, so many incredible artists who wanted to make work for children, who had children in their lives. And we're like, let's give them a platform where they are supported with resources you would get at a regular theater in Chicago, and make theater for children and make it accessible.
In my head, just now, if all the world were paper, what would we have to drink?
That's so great. Oh my God, that's so great. Oh, that show with the beautiful Sandra Delgado. That might have been when I first really got to know her in that show. And
A lot of paper in that show.
a lot of paper. What a great
Did you do that show today? Did you recycle that paper? Where'd that paper go?
Yeah, I'm sure that paper is living a beautiful life somewhere at the
Wherever
Museum
you
of
are,
Science and Industry.
wherever you are, paper from
Yes.
If All the World Was Paper. And then you have Go Dog Go, which is one of my favorite songs. You know how that one goes, right? Go dog go, go dog go.
Yeah, just like
hey,
that.
Hey Chicago, what do you say? The dogs are gonna win today. Do you have a dog?
Oh yes, I do.
Oh, that's right. Did you bring your dog over? No, you didn't.
No, I played with your dog.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's your dog?
My
name?
dog is Lulu. So she's 4. She's a mini Bernie Doodle. I know.
That's what we have.
Yeah.
Coda.
Your dog is like.
I saw your dog in Michigan. That's what it was.
Did you? Okay.
When we ran into each other and
we run into each other all the time. It's very strange.
Yeah.
It's very. Here we are, the universe. But yes. I guess we
need to. Yeah.
Yeah. So my dog is a good dog. She's, every dog is so unique. That's what's so cool. I've had a lot of dogs, and I have one dog that I still will miss to the end of my days. My dog Cosimo, who was a Newfie, and the best dog I ever had. And I woke up this morning, I think about him all the time. I love that dog, but I still love Lulu. She's an amazing little companion, and I'm lucky to have her. But go dog go. My daughter's first word was dog, or doggy, as David Catlin would say, because she was with all those Looking Glass people when she started talking, which was quite a fun experience. But
wait, there's an
doggy, doggy,
yeah.
Doggy, and that was always our joke, doggy. And she just loved dogs, and so I was so excited when I got to originally do the show when we launched the Children's Theater 20 years ago. But now we're bringing it back with Stephen Dietz, who originally wrote the adaptation with his wife Allison Gregory, but now we're doing a bilingual Spanish version, and the incorporation of Spanish is so beautiful, and we're working with a bilingual cast, and I'm very excited about the possibilities of that, and just thinking about this book being, for most children, it's the first book they learn to read by themselves, and there's just such a sense of pride when they can read those words, and to be able to now offer this in both its English and Spanish, and it's a beautiful blending of the languages that's happening in the show. And so it's really a world premiere of this production because of the bilingual aspect.
That's so great. And I just want to make sure our listeners know that song I sang is not part of the show. That was part of my meta dad joke work that I was doing, and sometimes you just can't catch it because it's so subtle.
Very subtle.
And when does that show open?
So that show is going to be opening on March 15th.
Ooh,
and
right
then,
after the Ides of March.
That's right after. And we'll be running it into May. So we have a nice, good long run. We've got field trips offered right now, so we're getting lots of educators who are reaching out to us. And again, it's such a great experience for classrooms that are, bilingual classrooms, as well as like children who are in language learning programs, and also just, again, those kids who, when we do shows like this, children show up with their books. Like they're like college professors or something. Like they carry their books in there, and they're making sure that we're being true to the word. And it's really quite remarkable, and it's what a joy, when you were talking about the rewards, those are the rewards. It's like when you get to see children, and every few years it's a bunch of different children coming through the door.
And do you get you must all the time get fully grown adults who were children who came to a show or involved, and they see you at Whole Foods?
Oh, yes, definitely. And there's so many people that I run into who saw A Year with Frog and Toad when we launched at the Goodman Theater. It was our first production in January of 2006. And those are now grown adults, and they just remember that show. They remember, all the wonderful songs, Get a Load of Toad, and that musical just stays with people forever.
So you have a 20-year anniversary coming up.
Yes.
And Collaboration has a 30-year anniversary coming
Unbelievable.
up. Well, we just keep on trucking.
Yes. And, I was thinking about this too. I mean, you and I, you know, we've seen a lot, a lot has happened in those years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's been really something. I mean, just to your question earlier, thinking about theater and what's going to happen. And, we've survived a lot, and, we will continue. But theater has to continue to evolve and respond. And I think that's what we're really good at. I mean, I love that about theater performers and actors is the responsiveness. I think that's why we're so good with children on the autism spectrum, because we are so responsive. And we're going to have to do that together, I think, as an industry. I know even in the children's theater space, we're doing so much more collaboration across the country. We just had a world premiere of a beautiful musical called Milo Imagines the World. And that was a co-commission between us, the Minneapolis Children's Theater, and the Rose Theater of Nebraska. And pooling our resources is tremendously helpful, because we need to keep doing new work and we want to do significant work, but we have to find the money to do that. And so working together is one of the best things we can do.
Yes. And it's times like these when we have to kind of, and I feel like this happens every 10 years in theater, when we have to really rely on our imaginative powers and rely on our ability to collaborate and really hone in to kind of a sixth sense of, I mean, when I had my first quarter life crisis when I got into theater. I read too much Deepak Chopra, and I really said, okay, young man, young dude, what do you really want to do with your life? And then the second quarter life crisis was about, making theater that was taking on our biggest issues. And for me at the time, it was really opening up my heart and my ears, eyes to Chicago's epidemic of at first street violence, and then I learned about how violence is a symptom of poverty, and poverty is a symptom of classism. Racism is a symptom of classism, and that's opened up a whole nother world and understanding and a way for me to grow and change. And I feel there's a new thing that's happening, and I'm thinking a lot about comedy, right? One person shows with music and story and great video, and the audience is not in a chair. And what if you had a musician who worked with a director, and she or they told their life stories, and then you matched the stories with the songs and weaved an experience that had some staging and video. I mean, I'm thinking, how do we get AI video so that a stage manager or a director can make live, I work a lot with the amazing Liviu Passari.
So do we, yes.
And he did the video for Nick Tremulous's show at the Metro, and it was amazing.
He made our first Red Kite videos too.
Shout out to Liviu. Liviu and I have almost the same exact eye. We worked on a project and we shot video of everybody's eyes, and then we blew them up big. Wow. And it was like, wait, that's my eye. No, that's Liviu's eye. And then we took them and put them next to each other, and they're like hazel, brown, green, and like the starburst of our eyes are like almost identical. So, but yeah, so I was like, Liviu, I would love to have you come in here every day and make video all day, every day, but that seems, like, maybe I can't afford you. And he's like, yeah, AI. So anyway, it's times like these when we have to reinvent ourselves, right? That we find the new way. And so as tricky as the current state of live theater is, there's no, it is the first collaborative art form, and it is an essential part of our humanity to co-dream together and heal by doing so. And it's just wonderful to take a moment to chat with you and hear how you're creating space for young people to do that, and in a way not only honoring your mother, but also staying true to the wrangling visionary babysitter that you were. Is there anything you want to share before we wrap it up here on episode number 70?
Yeah, I guess I want to just shout out about, we have classes and camps at Chicago Children's Theater. I think all children should get to experience theater in some way, shape, or form. And putting your child in a class or a camp, just letting them give it a try, is just such a great opportunity for them to find some part of themselves that maybe they didn't already know. Again, it's part of finding your people, and self-expression, all of those good things that we really want to see all children experience. So, we have those classes and camps available. We have financial aid available. We never want to turn anybody away who cannot afford to take a class with us. So we want to do everything we can to get those kids in. We offer free before and after care camp at our camps because parents work. I remember being one of those parents, and help us out here. So we make sure that is not an expense that is passed on to those parents. So we just really want to make it as accessible as possible. And if you go to our website at chicagochildrenstheater.org, you'll just find all kinds of great information about what's available to your child, to a child in your life that you love.
Bam. Chicago Children's Theater, a world-class institution here in Chicago, not just creating great shows for all children, but also a place for them to get on the stage and shake it off. Jacqui, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. This was fun. 70. That was a good number. I love the number 7.
Henry, take it away. Yeah. That was Collaboraction Radio, episode 70. That's all I got. I had a great big meal last night, and it kept me up. I didn't get much sleep, so take care of yourself, everyone, and don't forget to be a kid every now and again.
The preceding program, Collaboraction Radio, was sponsored